Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies, and welcome to the summer of 1989. We're looking at the weekend of May 26, 1989, Memorial Day weekend. Usually, for the longest time, this was the starting point for the summer movie season. You would have everybody off of work on Monday. You have 4 days to get as many people into the theaters as you can. The temperature's warming up outside. It's getting hot out. And so, yeah, this used to be when the summer movie season got going. But, of course, nowadays, the summer movie season starts as early as late April. Of course, with what happened with Avengers Endgame a few years ago. But, yeah, like, nowadays, it was nowadays before COVID kind of screwed that up the last couple of years. But it looks like this year we're finally getting back to the traditional summer movie schedule, starting with Doctor Strange on May 6th, and then so on and so forth. Top Gun's coming out, Jurassic World 3. But this summer in particular really was a major year for the summer movie season, because this was the critical point where the summer movie season just changed forever, because up to that point, you would usually have like one or two big blockbusters, and then these other hits that would come in the summer. Like the year prior to this, Big was a big hit, launched Tom Hanks' career. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a groundbreaking film. Die Hard was a big hit. Coming to America was a big hit. But like now in this summer, there was just so much available to people that people just kept coming to the theaters every single week. Like one week, like you'd have new movies with Indiana Jones, new movies for Star Trek, new movies for Ghostbusters, a new Batman movie, Lethal Weapon, The Karate Kid, James Bond, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then you'd have these other movies that weren't like franchise films, but they were movies with big stars. Robin Williams had Dead Poets Society. Hulk Hogan was in a big movie wasn't a big movie, No Holds Bar. Rick Moranis made his leading film debut with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or at least I think that's his leading film debut. Don't quote me on that. So it was a big summer where there was just so much there for everybody, and people just kept coming back to the movie theaters, to the point where this was a record-breaking year for the Hollywood box office, and it really changed the game on how Hollywood handles the summer movie season. You'll see that within the next year in 1990, where they basically tried to copy everything that they did here in 89 to not as much success in 1990. But we'll get there whenever we get there. But let's talk about the one new release that came out this weekend on May 24th, 1989, and that is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is, of course, the third installment of the Indiana Jones franchise. It's the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, because, remember, Temple of Doom was a prequel. And, in terms of the Indiana Jones movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be the pinnacle movie, the best overall movie from the franchise. But I gotta say, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade over the years has really grown on me. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm going to say something controversial here, but honestly, I really don't care. I don't think Temple of Doom is probably the worst of the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, it's not a bad movie per se, but like there's just so many elements to it that don't really work as well as the first movie did, and there are great moments that are in there, like the last climax on the bridge is great. But other than that, though, it doesn't have that spark that Raiders of the Lost Ark had. I prefer Kingdom of the Crystal Skull better than I was about to say Raiders of the Lost Ark. Temple of Doom. Like, I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a much better movie than Temple of Doom. That's my take on it, but we'll get to that one. We'll delve more into that when we get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull about 20 years from now. But let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I said before, it's a movie that's definitely grown on me over the years. Like, I remember liking it a lot the first time I saw it about 15 years ago, when I started watching all the Indiana Jones movies back to back to get ready for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But nowadays, I really have grown to love The Last Crusade, almost to the point where it sometimes goes above Raiders of the Lost Ark for me in terms of my personal favorite movie in the series. It's really hard to tell, because both of these movies, both that one, Raiders and Last Crusade, are so unique and so well done in their own special way. Like, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade just suckers you in right away. It has this great opening that takes place in the early 1910s with the young Indiana Jones, played here by River Phoenix, and of course was the inspiration later for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles series that came out in the 1990s. And it's this great sequence where Indiana Jones, as a Boy Scout, sees these robbers, tries to stop them from stealing stuff, and then they go on this circus train chase. It's great. And then at the end, the robbers actually end up winning the battle, and Indiana Jones is just so devastated and all that. The scene could have ended right there, and it would have been a great scene, but that's the great thing about Steven Spielberg, man. He knows what he's doing when it comes to making the moment stay etched in your brain for a long time. There's a great moment that happens in between when the robbers catch up to Indy and when we get to Indiana Jones in present day, this movie's present day. That scene alone is just one of the many reasons why I love this movie so much, because that scene is just works so well. You have this robber telling this young Indiana Jones, hey, you lost today, but you know what? You don't have to, that doesn't mean you have to like it. And that's I like how that's good enough for him to be motivated to become the Indiana Jones that we know and love. But when you add him given the hat going over the face, and that booming music by John Williams when he goes with the Indiana Jones theme, bum 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 bum, and the way it's just slowly building, and then it cuts to Harrison Ford in the rain with like blood and all that, because he's in the middle of a fight scene in that point, and that punch right there, it's just great. It's just a great transition. It's one of those great transitions that just gives you goosebumps every time, and just at that point you're in, you're ready to go for whatever adventure follows after that. And sure enough, this movie has a lot of great action sequences in this, great use of practical effects. I like the chemistry of Sean Connery and Harrison Ford as father and son. And even though Sean Connery and Harrison Ford are pretty much in the same age bracket, kind of. I mean, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery were like 12 years apart in age. Sean Connery was born in 30, Harrison Ford was born in 42, so yeah, at first it seems like, okay, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Sean Connery and Harrison Ford as father and son, what did he have him when he was like a 10-year-old or something? But here it actually works. Like, here the age factor doesn't really play a part, because you just really like their chemistry together, Sean Connery and Harrison Ford. It works so well as father and son here in this movie. And I also like how they're able to like recapture the magic of the first movie by having a lot of the old gang back together again. Like Denholm Elliott is back again in this movie playing Marcus Brody, and then you have Sala, but John Rhys Davies coming back in here as well. I like the way they incorporate them back into the story, that by the end of the movie, they're all working together to try to finish the mission, finish what the adventure is, and it leads to a lot. Like I said, it leads to a lot of great moments, a lot of funny moments. This movie does a good job of balancing the more silly comedic moments along with the more dramatic moments. Like, it's not afraid to balance it out and make for a great entertaining movie. Like, I love the tank action sequence in this. I love how when the tank is falling, you just see the guy in the tank screaming as the tank is just literally coming down. He has this face like, he just has this cartoonish looking face, but I can't help it. It's so hilarious. It's hilarious every time I see that face. It's just like, it's like one of those sequences. It's like one of those times when you want to stop the scene and be like, and have someone go, yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation, because that's what it really feels like to me. And then you get to the temple scene where Indiana Jones has to go into the room with and find the Holy Grail. So they go through these 3 different traps, and Indiana Jones's father has been shot by the bad guys. So Indiana Jones has to go in there and make clear the pathway so the bad guys can get in there. And it's a well done sequence. My favorite part of that sequence is the bridge scene, like where Indiana Jones is walking through. He finds that he has to go through this gap, and it looks like there's no way you can get there. But I wasn't in the theater to see this movie because obviously I was only about 5 months old. I'm pretty sure people erupted when his foot landed on there and he didn't fall off. I mean, just a great sequence right there. And I like how the camera actually moves to show you that there was a bridge there and you're not able to see it, but it's literally a leap of faith. Like, you have to trust yourself to know that there's a pathway there. And I just love the way that scene is shot, and like the way the music again ramps up. This is some of John Williams' best music right here. This is such a great scene, and it's just a great scene overall. And then after that, of course, we get the Holy Grail scene, which is a great scene which features some really good practical effects of the bad guy melting as he picks the wrong Grail, and then Indy grabs the right one and saves his father. And as they're about to take the Grail out, the temple starts to collapse, and Indiana's trying to save Elsa from getting is trying to save Elsa, but Elsa wants that Grail, and every time she tries to get close to it, the last time she does it, she ends up falling over and ends up dying. Now that scene right there could have been, I don't know if it could have been perfect, but it could have easily ended there, and people would have been like, okay, that's to be expected. But the great thing about, the great thing about Steven Spielberg as a director is that he knows when to keep going and exactly when to stop. And what's great about what follows next, this scene right here that follows afterwards, not a lot of people talk about it, but it's a great moment. That moment where Indiana Jones' father is just telling him, let it go, that could have easily been a good moment, but the fact that he goes, Indiana, let it go. And the fact that he has not called his son that at all during the movie. It's always been Junior and all that stuff, but that moment right there when Indiana Jones is risking his life for this legendary cup, thinking that it's going to help him connect more with his father, he realizes that after all these years of collecting these artifacts and leaving this family behind, that his father knows what's important in life, and so that creates this unique bond between them. It's just such a great moment, and after Sean Connery passed away, this moment really just became something entirely different. It makes that stand out so well with this movie, and it's one of those moments where not a lot of people really talk about it, but it's one of the great moments ever in these Indiana Jones movies. Like, just that little moment there. Like I said before, that's what Steven Spielberg does best. He knows when enough is enough, and that was just enough right there. That you didn't need a whole lot there. You just needed Sean Connery to just say, let it go. And then that's it. That's all you needed to do. And it's just such a brilliant scene. It's just one of those great things that makes this movie grow with me a lot more. I've really grown to appreciate this movie a lot more in the years since I saw it the first time. And I think a lot of people really have too. If you haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you definitely really should give it another shot and really go into it. Really go into it expecting a lot more, because it really is a lot more than a lot of people, I think, give it credit for. It's a very well-made film. It's one of Steven Spielberg's most enjoyable movies, I think. It's the second best. It usually varies between my favorite and my second favorite Indiana Jones movie in the series. He's like, Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be the pinnacle moment of this franchise, but the pinnacle movie of this franchise, but Last Crusade is just as good, if not sometimes better. It's such a wonderful movie. It's definitely worth checking out again. I highly recommend anybody that hasn't seen it already, or even if you have seen it already, watch it again, because it definitely is worth a rewatch, and it's definitely a great way to start this movie season that we're about to get into here. So that's my full thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. A definitely fantastic movie. Definitely check it out. So with that said, that's my full review of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Next time around, we jump into the month of June, where we'll go back to our regular mini review format. We've got 6 movies to look at, including Hulk Hogan's feature film debut, No Holds Barred, Lou Diamond Phillips and Kiefer Sutherland in Renegades, Robin Williams' The Dead Poets Society, Nicolas Cage and Jennifer Beals in Vampire's Kiss, scenes from the class struggles in Beverly Hills, and Far From Home. Thank you guys for watching this episode, and if you like this and you want to see more videos like this, definitely check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next edition of Time About the Movies. Thank you guys for watching, and until then, the next time I see you, take care.